Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's Steve Moon, your San Jose realtor. Did you know that one little clause in your home buying contract could be the difference between scoring your dream home and walking into a total nightmare? Today, we're chatting about contingencies. You know, those super important contract clauses that can either be your best friend or your biggest headache when it comes to buying in the whole home buying process. I want to break things down and make these contingencies easy to understand in plain English, because honestly, they're too important to ignore. We'll walk through the most common ones that you'll see, how they actually work, and answer some questions that I hear all the time from my clients. Whether this is your very first rodeo or whether you bought several homes before, getting comfortable and understanding these contingencies as a concept can save you tons of money and, more importantly, stress. So grab a coffee or a can of beer if that's more to your liking, and let's dive into this. I promise that this stuff isn't as complicated as it sounds. So what's a contingency anyway? Think of contingencies as your get out of jail free card in the home buying process. Basically an if-then scenario built into your contract. So take the appraisal contingency, for example. If the home appraises for what you agreed to pay, then you move forward with the purchasing process. But if that appraisal comes in a little bit low, more so than you had expected, you've got options now. You can renegotiate the price or potentially walk away without losing your deposit, but only if you've got that contingency in place. That's exactly what we're covering today. All these little safety nets and what they can mean for you when you're buying a home. And if you're finding these types of information and explanations important, I'd super appreciate it if you could do a quick thumbs up and subscribe. It would really help my channel grow. So contingencies are there to have your back as a buyer. So they protect you from having to go through with buying a home when certain conditions aren't quite met. But they can also protect sellers too. For instance, maybe the seller needs to find their next home before selling their current home. And a contingency gives them the peace of mind that if they can't find a new home, that they won't be basically forced to sell their current home and end up being, homeless, essentially. So now let's get into the basics of contingencies that you'll see in most of the home buying process. Also, keep in mind that I'm in Northern California, Silicon Valley. So what I'm referencing to is basically the California contract or the CAR contract. So if you're house hunting in another state, the specifics might vary a little bit, but the general concepts are pretty much the same. Just check with your real estate agent, the local one, about the differences in your particular area. So contingencies are already baked into the contract form itself. 17 days is the default setting, but during negotiations, you might hear about reducing these time periods or waiving certain types of these contingencies to make your offer more attractive to the seller. This is exactly why understanding what you're signing is so important. You don't want to accidentally put yourself and your deposit money at risk, right? Speaking of deposits, these contingencies are protecting your earnest deposit money. That's the good faith deposit that you put down when you make an offer. In California, we typically see deposits of about 3% of the actual purchase price. So on a $1 million home, we're basically talking about a $30,000 deposit of your hard-earned cash sitting in escrow. While this money eventually goes towards a down payment, it's still coming out of your bank account and moving into the escrow account at the title company. As long as your contingencies are active, that money stays protected. But once you release those contingencies, then that deposit could potentially become the seller's money if you try to back out. That's why knowing what you basically signing is absolutely crucial. You know, over the last few years, we've been seeing tons of buyers waiving contingencies basically left and right. Some basically say no inspection is needed. You know, others waive appraisals, and some even go into waiving everything, right? Basically putting their deposit at risk from day one. Generally, that's not something that I would recommend. But why would people do this? In one word, competition. When you've got multiple offers at similar prices, waiving contingencies can be that one factor that makes your offer shine brighter than anybody else's to the seller. Your agent might suggest shortening time frames for the contingencies, or maybe removing them altogether to help your offer stand out from the crowd. You know, that's exactly why you need to know what you're getting into before signing on that dotted line, because we're talking about your money that's on the line here, right? This contingency is all about making sure that you're not overpaying. If you agree to buy a home for $1 million, but the appraisal comes in and says it's worth $950, this contingency gives you the right to hit pause and basically try to renegotiate or potentially walk away if the seller won't budge or even discuss a negotiation. And here's something that people also seem to misunderstand. Waiving your appraisal contingency doesn't mean the lender won't require their own appraisal. They absolutely will do so. You know, what you're really saying when you waive this contingency is that I don't care what the appraisal shows, I really want this house no matter what, right? That's what you're saying by removing your appraisal contingency. So if there is a shortage between the appraisal value and the purchase price, you may have to make up the difference in cash. So quick warning. So some agents might suggest a sneaky tactic of waiving appraisal contingencies to make your offer look stronger than it really is, then using another contingency as a back door if the appraisal doesn't come in, right? Not only is this super unethical, but it could also put your deposit at serious risk if they find out. Always know exactly what you're waiving. This one lets you check out the house from top to bottom. It covers not just your general home inspection, but it also gives you the green light for specialized inspections. So maybe you want to look closer at the foundation because you saw some cracks around it, or maybe you want to check out the sewer lines because you saw a lot of trees around the house, or maybe you want to bring some other expert during your due diligence time period. In California, again, that's 17 days to do all of this detective work. And let me tell you, inspectors will almost always come back with a long list of issues. So some of these may be serious, some of them may be health and safety related concerns, and others may be just sort of code updates that happen over time, or maybe some simple repair issues that the sellers hadn't addressed before putting it on the market, right? But honestly, in my experience, most of these types of work end up being minor issues that are not huge compared to the big overall picture. So this contingency lets you decide on what to do based on what the inspector finds. The house needs way too much work, then you can simply walk away. Or maybe you request repairs, or maybe you ask for some money in the form of credit, or you try to renegotiate the price altogether. Just like with the appraisal contingency, waiving inspection doesn't mean you can't do an inspection. It just means that you can't use what you find as a reason to back out, right? And trying to use another contingency as a workaround after waiving the inspection, again, that's playing with fire when it comes to your deposit if they find out you're trying to do a quick switch. So you might be wondering, see, why would I need a loan contingency if I've already gone through the pre-approval process and been pre-approved for a loan? Well, let me explain. During the pre-approval process, a lender, unless they're a direct lender lending their own money, reviews the documentation that you submit, and they approve you for a loan. However, they often act as a middleman between you and the actual lender. The bank that will be actually providing the loan, that's the lender, right? Once the lender submits the loan application to an underwriter or an underwriting department, the underwriter thoroughly then examines all of the information, including the purchase price, the title report, the appraisal, and any other relevant documentation that you provided. They then evaluate your credit score and income to determine if you meet the loan requirements. If the underwriter finds any issues, such as maybe your credit score has since dropped since when you originally submitted the application and you don't meet their criteria, or somebody maybe incorrectly calculated your income, then they can deny your loan. And in such a case, if you had a loan contingency in place, then you can use that to back out of the contract. This contingency essentially gives you an option to cancel the loan if certain conditions are not being met now. This allows you to proceed with your home purchase without the burden of a loan that you may not be able to afford or qualify for anymore. And in my 20 plus years of selling homes, these three types of contingencies, the appraisal, the inspection, and the loan, are basically responsible for vast majority of the deals that fall apart. I would say like 90% of them. But there are other contingencies that come into play when you're a home buyer. So for instance, if you're purchasing a property that's a part of an HOA, HOA being homeowners association, condos typically have an HOA, townhomes typically have an HOA, and if you also live in a planned community, they also have homeowners associations. So now, with this homeowners association, you'll basically have an architectural guideline, reserve studies, meeting minutes, and all of these documents, which are called CC&Rs, that the buyers get to review before they decide whether to proceed or not. More often than not, these aren't, cause for concern, but sometimes there are things like pet restrictions within these documents, which for me as a pet owner is very important and a red flag. Sometimes there could be other things like architectural guidelines that can't allow you to modify the property in a certain way that you want. Or sometimes maybe the community may not have enough funds in their reserves, which could be very problematic because that could lead to special assessments. If the budget is extremely tight, you might look at it and say, this is ridiculous because this community basically doesn't have any money. And you may not want to move forward and move into a community that doesn't have any money. All of these factors give you the opportunity to back out as long as this contingency is in place. So by now you should have an understanding of why contingencies are crucial and why you should have them in place. If you waive them and something comes back in one of these things that we've discussed, you really don't have an escape clause to be able to cancel or back out of the contract. The more contingencies you have in place, as I mentioned, the more opportunities or more items you have to fulfill before releasing that earnest deposit money. In addition to HOA documents, sellers in California are required to sign specific disclosures. And these disclosures often include questions about the property itself, such as whether someone has died within the property in the last 3 years, or if there are any types of insurance claims against this property. The seller is obligated to provide accurate information in these documents. As a buyer, you have the opportunity to review these documents. And while it's rare for significant issues to arise, these documentations can sometimes raise additional questions that prompt you to, seek further information from the seller, like who died and why, right? Having this type of contingency in place ensures that you have the chance to review these disclosures thoroughly. Now, another contingency that arises is the preliminary title report. And this report serves as a safeguard to ensure that there aren't any type of potential issues affecting the property's title, because lenders generally avoid funding on properties with existing liens. So maybe there was some sort of a dispute with the contractor and they put a lien against the property for unpaid fees, or there's some sort of judgment against the property, or some other similar related issues. Most of these issues are typically resolved before purchasing a home. However, there might be easements or other types of undisclosed matter on the property that could be revealed in the title report. And in my experience, out of all the contingencies that we've discussed, this particular type of an item is like the least likely to have some sort of an impact on the decision to buy a home or not. But nevertheless, it's an opportunity for you to review the report itself. Absolutely. My clients do it all the time. The real problem isn't waiving one or two contingencies. It's waiving all of them, which puts your entire deposit at risk no matter what issue pops up. Again, it depends on the level of competition and how badly you want that particular house. I'm totally comfortable suggesting waiving the appraisal contingency when comparable sales suggest that the property should appraise without too much issue. Same with loan contingencies when I'm working with lenders that I've known for years who are local and who are confident in the buyer's qualifications, right? The key is understanding what you're signing and having a team that you can trust and support. In California, you get 17-day standard, but you can always negotiate for shorter or longer time periods. My clients often shorten these time frames to make their offers more competitive when we know that we can get inspections or appraisals done much quicker, right? So what happens if your contingency deadline hits? Let's say you have 7 days and your appraisal still hasn't come back. In California, the seller can send what's called a notice to perform, which basically gives you 2 more days to make a decision or to act before the seller can officially kick you out of the contract and put the property back on the market. Your deposit isn't automatically at risk just because the time has come and seller is pushing you, or again, the time has expired. You actually have to sign a document that's releasing those contingencies. So your deposit only becomes vulnerable after you've signed a complete release of all contingencies. And that's why having a realistic time frame is so important when you're agreeing to these types of deadlines in the real world. Honest communication with the listing agent about delays usually results in some sort of a reasonable extension. In my more than 2 decades of selling homes, I've never really had deals fall apart solely because the contingency deadlines were met exactly on time. It's all about communication and letting the other party get involved and letting them know. And remember, if the seller is causing the delay, like maybe they didn't provide documents on time, then you're not obligated to release the contingencies unless you've had proper time to review everything, right? Good communication and formal addendums to document any changes that have taken place protects everybody that's involved. It's all about communication. Understanding contingencies is super important for protecting your earnest money deposit. If something doesn't make sense, ask your agent. And honestly, if they can't explain these concepts to you clearly, you might need to find somebody who can. If you are a first-time homebuyer wanting more guidance beyond just contingencies, I put together a complete buyer's guide that walks through everything from getting a mortgage all the way to negotiating like a professional. So you can grab this free resource through the link in the description that I'm going to provide. While contingencies might seem scary because they involve, serious deposit money, understanding them actually reduces your risks. I've had one buyer walk away from deposit after releasing all of their contingencies due to some dramatic changes in their life, which obviously I cannot talk about here. But this kind of thing rarely happens when people keep their contingencies in place as a safety net or know exactly how to deal with them. The bottom line is, when you're a buyer looking for a home, make sure that you understand what you're signing so that you're not putting your hard-earned deposit money at unnecessary risk. The more you know, the smoother your home buying journey will be. Well, I hope you found this video to be informative and at least hopefully picked up one or maybe two useful nuggets which you didn't know before. Buying a home is an incredible journey full of potential surprises, and contingencies can help guide you and protect you from losing your hard-earned deposit money if you encounter some unexpected surprises in the condition of the home, or you have unexpected issues with your lender preventing it from giving you the loan that you have been waiting and depending on. They're there to give you that last-minute protection just in case you need them. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next video.